The billionaire needed a fake girlfriend. But love always have his way to the heart. He hired her to save his image. She never knew she'd rewrite his heart. But when lies turn to love, which truth do you protect? Your pride or your soul? Welcome back, my wonderful family and friends. If you're tuned in and ready to dive into today's story, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and drop a comment letting me know where you're watching from. Tomorrow, I'll be bringing you another exciting story you definitely don't want to miss. So, let's get started. The city glittered beneath him, a constellation of success he could never touch. Joash leaned against the tinted glass of his penthouse, phone pressed to his ear, voice clipped, businesslike. Sell the shares. Announce the merger tomorrow. And make sure the press sees me smiling. His assistant stammered a confirmation before the line went dead. Silence. The kind that echoed wealth and emptiness at once. On the wall, a massive portrait of his late father stared back. A man who built an empire on pride and never learned the language of love. Joash exhaled sharply, loosening his tie. It had been 2 years since he'd let anyone close. 2 years since betrayal had turned warmth into armor. He poured himself a glass of scotch and sank into the leather sofa, eyes half closed as the city hummed below. His PR manager's words from earlier still rang in his head. You need a distraction, Joash. A story the media will love. A woman by your side. Someone real enough to humanize you. The board's losing patience. He'd scoffed then, but the truth gnawed at him. The upcoming merger with a family-run firm required him to look approachable, stable, in love. Love. He almost laughed at the irony. Love had been his downfall once. Across town, Amanda sat in a dim cafe, scribbling into a coffee-stained notebook. The words wouldn't come. They never did when the rent notice sat folded in her purse like a silent threat. She used to write about hope, about fairy tales where love healed and people kept promises. Now her stories sounded like hollow echoes. Her phone buzzed another rejection email. She sighed, stirring her cold latte. Maybe I'm not meant to be a writer, she muttered, forcing a smile to the barista who'd become her unspoken therapist. You say that every week, Amanda, the barista teased. And every week, you come back with a new story. She smiled, though her eyes glistened. Yeah, maybe I just like happy endings too much. Outside, rain began to fall, a slow drizzle that blurred neon reflections into watercolor sadness. Amanda closed her notebook and tucked it under her arm. Time to face reality. No job, no savings, no plan. She needed a miracle. That miracle arrived in the form of an accident. The charity gala at the Royal Meridian Hotel wasn't her scene. She was there only because her friend, a last-minute event assistant, had begged her to help serve wine. The hall shimmered with chandeliers, laughter, and people who smelled like old money and new arrogance. She balanced a tray of glasses, nerves fraying. As she turned a corner, a tall man in an immaculately tailored suit appeared out of nowhere. The tray tipped, crystal shattered. Wine splashed across his black tuxedo. Oh my God, I'm so sorry, she gasped, kneeling to pick up glass. I didn't see. It's fine, he said, voice calm but cold. He knelt too, eyes dark as thunderclouds. Up close, he looked carved from marble, handsome in a way that hurt to look at. But his expression, it was the kind that said, don't touch me. Amanda stammered, I'll pay for the cleaning. Don't bother. He stood, brushing off his sleeve, eyes flicking over her name tag. Amanda. Something in the way he said her name made her chest tighten. She didn't know him, not yet. But everyone around her did. The whispers said Joash Miller, billionaire CEO of Ether Corp. And just like that, she wanted the ground to swallow her. He left without another word. Later that night, Joash sat in his car, tie undone, replaying the moment in his head. The girl's voice had been soft but stubborn, her eyes full of apology and defiance. Not many people looked him in the eye these days. His phone buzzed. "Josh," said his PR manager. "I think I found your perfect fake girlfriend." He didn't care until he saw the photo she texted. The same girl. The one who'd spilled wine on him. For the first time in months, Josh laughed a real, unexpected laugh. 2 days later, Amanda sat nervously in a sleek office, twisting her fingers. She had answered an ad that said, "Looking for a confident woman for public engagement role. Discretion required. Excellent pay." She never expected him to walk in. Josh, the man she'd humiliated at the gala. Their eyes met. Her heart skipped. "You're kidding," she whispered. He smirked. "You're hired. If you were in Amanda's shoes, would you take the offer? Tell me in the comments. Would you fake a relationship for survival if it meant risking your heart?" The conference room at EtherCorp felt colder than it should. Amanda sat opposite Josh, hands folded, pretending she wasn't trembling. He was silent, studying her with those unreadable eyes that had already made half the city tremble. "Let's make this clear," he began, sliding a contract across the table. 3 months. You'll accompany me to events, dinners, and media appearances. In return," he paused, his tone dry, businesslike, "you'll be compensated fairly." Amanda stared at the papers. "So basically, I'll be your prop." His gaze lifted sharply. "You'll be my partner in appearance only." She tried to smile, but it came out brittle. "Right? Just appearances." Their eyes held for a moment too long. He broke it first, clearing his throat and gesturing to his lawyer. "You'll have time to review the terms." She nodded, signing anyway. Time wouldn't change what she needed. Rent was due in 2 days. As the pen touched paper, something shifted in the air between them. An invisible promise neither of them understood. 3 days later, the world saw them together. The city's social elite gathered at the Meridian Hotel again, this time for Josh's public charity gala. Cameras flashed like fireworks, the air thick with perfume and pretense. Josh offered his arm. Amanda took it. The gesture was simple, but her fingers brushed his sleeve, and the contact sent a spark racing up her spine. "You're shaking," he murmured. "I don't do well with cameras." "Then look at me," he said softly, lowering his voice so only she could hear. "Not them." She did, and for a heartbeat too long, the world disappeared. He smiled barely, but it was enough to melt the chill around him. Click, flash. The moment was immortalized. The billionaire who never smiled, now smiling beside a mystery woman. The gala's string quartet shifted into a slow waltz. A guest joked, "Come on, Josh, show us your romantic side." Amanda froze. Josh hated theatrics, but tonight he needed to sell the illusion. He extended his hand. "Miss Blake, may I?" She hesitated, then placed her hand in his. They began to dance. Awkward at first, his movements too controlled, hers too uncertain, but soon, rhythm found them. The world softened around the melody. "Relax," he whispered. "You're doing fine." She looked up at him, eyes shimmering beneath the chandelier's light. "For a man who claims he doesn't do emotions, you're surprisingly gentle." He chuckled under his breath. "And for someone who claims she doesn't belong here, you're remarkably composed." They laughed softly, real laughter, not scripted smiles. The air thickened with unspoken curiosity, fragile yet magnetic. When the music ended, his hand lingered at her waist just a second too long. Enough for her to feel the pulse beneath his calm exterior. Enough for him to realize that pretending might be dangerous. The limousine hummed through city lights. Neither spoke for a while. The silence wasn't awkward, it was charged. Amanda finally broke it. "You're not as heartless as people say." He looked out the window. You shouldn't believe everything you hear. I don't, she said softly. I prefer what I see. He turned toward her, meeting her gaze. And what do you see? She hesitated. A man who's trying really hard not to feel. That hit deeper than he expected. He looked away again, jaw tightening, as rain began to streak down the glass. Feelings complicate things, he murmured. Maybe, she said, voice barely above a whisper. But they also make us human. For the first time, Joash didn't have an answer. Back in her apartment, Amanda stared at the contract on her nightstand. The ink was barely dry, yet her heart already felt compromised. She thought of the way Joash's hand had steadied hers, how his gaze had softened for a fleeting second. It was all an act, she reminded herself, but her heart didn't listen. Meanwhile, Joash sat in his penthouse, scrolling through photos from the gala. His eyes stopped at one, the moment she laughed mid-dance, radiant and unguarded. He zoomed in without realizing. A faint smile touched his lips, quickly hidden beneath his hand. It's just business, he told himself. But the ache in his chest disagreed. The next morning, Joash entered his office earlier than usual. The skyline was still pale with dawn, streaks of gold glinting off glass towers. He poured himself black coffee, the bitter kind he liked, strong, precise, emotionless. Amanda arrived moments later for their scheduled rehearsal. She wore a soft gray dress, simple but disarmingly graceful. Joash noticed, then immediately scolded himself for noticing. Morning, she said. He nodded curtly. We have a charity auction tomorrow. There'll be interviews. I want you briefed on what to say. Right? She replied, setting her bag down. And what not to say, I assume? Exactly, he said, flipping through a stack of talking points. No personal questions. We keep it professional. She tilted her head, a teasing glimmer in her eyes. You mean fake? He looked up sharply. I mean controlled. Amanda smiled faintly. You can control a business, Joash, not people. He sighed, dropping the folder. This arrangement doesn't need philosophy, Miss Blake. It needs discipline. Her expression softened. You really think feelings are that dangerous, don't you? He didn't answer. The silence was his confession. The auction went smoothly, too smoothly. Cameras loved them. The tabloids called them the city's most elegant couple. But every photo of Amanda leaning into Joash's shoulder, every moment his hand rested on her back, felt too natural. During a break, Amanda slipped outside for air. The night smelled of roses and expensive perfume. She closed her eyes, trying to steady the ache growing inside her chest. It's not real, Amanda. Don't forget that. A voice behind her broke the thought. You shouldn't be out here alone, Joash said, stepping onto the terrace. Habit, she replied, smiling faintly. Writers like solitude. You're not a writer right now, he reminded. You're my girlfriend. Fake girlfriend, she corrected softly. He paused, eyes glinting beneath the warm lights. Sometimes it doesn't feel fake. Her breath caught. Then maybe we're both in trouble. Their eyes locked. Neither moved. The city lights shimmered around them like quiet witnesses. For one reckless heartbeat, it felt like the world tilted. Then Joash looked away. We should go back inside. She nodded, voice trembling. Yeah, before the cameras notice. That night, Amanda couldn't sleep. The way he'd looked at her, half longing, half regret, haunted her. She turned on her laptop, trying to write. Instead, words spilled out that weren't fiction anymore. He hides his heart behind money, but when he smiles, the world forgets to breathe. She slammed the laptop shut, mortified. Get a grip, Amanda. Across town, Joash sat in his study, staring at an untouched glass of whiskey. His assistant had texted congratulations. You two look perfect together. Perfect. The word mocked him. He'd built his life on precision, on rules that kept him safe from disappointment. But Amanda, she was unpredictable. She didn't flatter him, didn't chase him. She simply saw him, and that terrified him. The next day, Joash tried to reset boundaries. From now on, he said briskly in the car, let's limit unnecessary contact outside scheduled events. I think things are getting blurred. Amanda turned to him, eyebrows raised. Blurred? You mean human? He tightened his jaw. Don't do that. Do what? Make this personal. Her voice softened. I'm not the one making it personal, Joash. He met her gaze, anger, fear, and longing colliding all at once. You think you know me? She leaned forward slightly. No. But I see you. Silence. The kind that burned. He turned away, fists clenched. Then stopped looking. Amanda exhaled, blinking away the sting in her eyes. You can push me away all you want, she said quietly. But pretending not to feel won't save you. It'll just make you lonely again. He didn't answer, but the way his hand trembled against his knee betrayed everything. That night, both lay awake in separate beds, two hearts pacing the same rhythm miles apart. Amanda whispered into the dark, You can't fake chemistry. Joash, alone in his silence, whispered almost the same thing. You can't fake what's already real. Started with rain. Not a polite drizzle, but a storm that split the night open. Josh's car glided through sheets of water on their way back from a foundation dinner. City lights drowning in the downpour. The driver glanced back. Sir, the bridge ahead's been closed. Flash flood warning. Closest safe stop is your countryside villa. Should I reroute there? Joash nodded reluctantly. Do it. Amanda looked out the window. A villa. It's not far, he replied curtly. She smiled faintly. Let me guess it's more mansion in the woods than cabin by the lake. He didn't answer, but the ghost of a smile tugged at his lips. When they arrived, thunder cracked across the sky. The villa loomed like a memory, quiet, imposing, lonely. Joash hadn't been there in years. As lightning flashed, Amanda's gaze swept the space. Polished floors, walls lined with paintings, and the faint scent of cedar and silence. This place feels empty, she murmured. Josh's tone was flat. It suits me. Minutes later, the storm killed the power. Darkness swallowed the villa. Amanda gasped, bumping into a table. Okay. This is officially creepy. Josh's voice came from the shadows. Stay where you are. He found a flashlight, its beam cutting through the dark, landing softly on her face. Their eyes met, half light, half heartbeat. You look terrified, he said quietly. I'm not great with storms, she admitted, or mansions with dead lights. He set the flashlight on a table, its glow flickering like candlelight. There's a fireplace in the den. Come on. They sat near the fire, its warmth spreading through the chill. Rain drummed against the windows like restless fingers. Amanda hugged her knees, the glow painting her face gold. You grew up in places like this? Josh nodded, staring into the flames. Big houses, empty dinners, silence louder than thunder. She tilted her head. That's why you hate feelings, isn't it? They make noise. He looked at her, then really looked. You think you've figured me out? No, she whispered. I just recognize lonely when I see it. The words landed like a confession. The fire popped, sending sparks upward. Josh leaned back, his shoulders easing. I used to come here with my mother, before my father decided emotions were a liability. Amanda's voice softened. What happened to her? She left, he said simply. Couldn't live in a house where love was a weakness. I stayed. I thought strength meant staying. She watched him quietly, her eyes full of something tender. Maybe strength is letting go. He almost smiled. You really are a writer. Guilty. The silence that followed wasn't cold anymore, it was fragile. Alive. When she yawned, he stood. You should rest. There's a guest room upstairs. I'm fine here, she murmured, eyes heavy. He hesitated, then draped a blanket over her shoulders. His fingers brushed her hair, just a fleeting touch, but it lingered in the air like a heartbeat that refused to end. The storm passed. Morning spilled golden light through the windows. Amanda woke on the couch, the fire long dead, a blanket tucked neatly around her. She smiled faintly. He'd watched over her. In the kitchen, she found Joash making coffee. The sight startled her, the billionaire barefoot, sleeves rolled up, looking almost human. You cook now? She teased. He looked up, smirking. Don't tell the board. It'll ruin my image. She laughed, and for the first time it didn't feel like pretending. As they stood there, quiet filled the room again, but it wasn't awkward this time. It was peace. Amanda reached for her mug. Their hands brushed, and neither pulled away. Thank you, she said softly, for last night. Josh's voice dropped low. You make storms feel less heavy. Her heart stumbled. Careful, Josh. You're starting to sound human. He chuckled, eyes warm. Don't tell anyone. They both laughed, but in their eyes, something unspoken bloomed. The villa had grown quiet again. After breakfast, Amanda wandered the halls, her fingertips tracing along shelves lined with artifacts of a life she couldn't imagine living. Awards, plaques, faded photographs of a younger Josh beside a man whose pride looked colder than marble. She stopped at one photo. Josh at 20, smiling beside a woman whose eyes looked kind. But it was the next frame that froze her. Josh and a beautiful brunette in an engagement dress. Amanda's throat tightened. She turned just as Josh entered. He saw what she was holding and stopped. For a moment, his face went pale, unguarded. You shouldn't, he started, then sighed. That was my fiancée, Evelyn. Amanda set the photo down gently. What happened? He exhaled through his nose, voice low. She and my brother. I found out the night before our wedding. Her heart clenched. Josh. I built walls after that, he continued, eyes fixed on the floor. Walls made of contracts, money, and silence. It worked. Until you. She blinked, unsure if she'd heard right. Me? He looked up, pain, honesty, and disbelief tangled in his gaze. You make me forget I'm supposed to feel nothing. Amanda didn't know whether to run or reach for him. That evening, Josh found Amanda sitting outside beneath the starlit veranda, wrapped in a blanket. You're quiet, he said, stepping beside her. I was just thinking, she murmured, about how people break and what it takes to put the pieces back. He sat beside her, the night air cool and scented with pine. Tell me. She hesitated, then took a slow breath. When I was 16, my dad used to say my words would change the world. He worked 2 jobs to send me to college. When he got sick, I dropped out to take care of him. Her voice wavered. He died the same week my first novel got rejected by every publisher I dreamed of. After that, I stopped writing stories about happy endings. Josh's voice softened, almost reverent. He sounds like a good man. The best, she whispered. And every time I try to write again, I hear his voice asking me not to give up. But I keep failing him. Josh's jaw tightened. Failure doesn't erase love. Amanda's eyes glistened. Maybe, but disappointment does. He turned toward her then, his voice low but certain. You didn't disappoint him, Amanda. You just kept surviving. That takes more courage than anyone gives you credit for. Their eyes met, and the space between them disappeared. Thunder rumbled again in the distance, soft, far away, like an echo from last night's storm. Amanda turned to face him. "Why do you hide behind control, Joash?" "Because control doesn't leave," he said, voice trembling slightly. "People do." She reached out, fingers brushing his hand. "Then maybe what you need isn't control. Maybe it's someone who stays." For a moment, neither spoke. Her touch burned through his defenses, through every cold lesson life had forced him to learn. His hand closed around hers tentatively, as if afraid she'd vanish. "You make it sound easy." "It isn't," she said softly. "But it's worth it." He looked at her, eyes glistening in the dim light. "Amanda!" She held his gaze, waiting. But then he stood abruptly, stepping back like a man fighting gravity. "We should get some rest." Her heart cracked quietly. "Right? Of course." Later that night, Amanda couldn't sleep. She wandered into the study, the same room where Joash had been earlier. On the desk, she found a worn leather journal, half hidden beneath files. Curiosity pulled her closer. She opened it, pages filled with handwriting that wasn't business notes. They were letters. To no one. To everyone. "Sometimes I wonder if I'll ever be seen for more than what I built. If I could just breathe once without pretending I'm fine." Her eyes stung. She closed the book, whispering to the empty room, "You already are." Behind her, Joash stood quietly in the doorway. He'd seen her reading, but instead of anger, there was only vulnerability in his eyes. "You weren't supposed to see that," he said gently. She turned, guilt flooding her. "I am sorry, I just." He shook his head, stepping closer. "Don't be. Maybe I needed someone to." The silence that followed was heavy, intimate, and painfully real. For the first time since they met, no walls stood between them. Joash looked at Amanda, really looked, and whispered, "You make me remember what warmth feels like." Amanda swallowed hard, her voice trembling. "And you make me believe in happy endings again." Their eyes lingered, a confession hanging unspoken in the air until the sound of thunder startled them both. He smiled faintly. "Maybe tomorrow." She nodded. "Maybe." The next morning, sunlight poured softly through the villa windows, golden and forgiving. For once, there were no PR calls, no stage smiles, just quiet. Amanda found Joash in the garden, sleeves rolled up, kneeling by a bed of wilted roses. "You garden?" she asked, surprised. He glanced up, wiping sweat from his brow. "I used to. My mother loved these. I let them die after she left." Amanda crouched beside him, fingertips brushing the soil. "Then maybe it's time to bring them back." He smiled faintly. "You think I can?" "You don't have to be perfect to grow something, Joash," she said softly. "You just have to try again." Her words lingered. He looked at her hair catching sunlight, eyes warm, voice gentle, and for the first time, Joash allowed himself to simply exist, not perform. Together, they replanted the roses. In the silence between them bloomed something deeper than either dared name. By afternoon, laughter echoed through the villa. Amanda stood at the stove, apron tied crookedly, while Joash fumbled with a mixing bowl. "You said you knew how to cook," she teased. "I said I own a kitchen," he corrected, a streak of flour on his cheek. She laughed, real, unguarded laughter that filled the space where emptiness used to live. When he looked at her, the sight made his chest ache. "You should laugh more," he said quietly. "It makes everything around you seem less lonely." Amanda's hands froze. "You sound like someone who's been lonely too long." He didn't deny it. "Maybe I have." For a moment, neither spoke. Then she reached up, brushing the flour from his face. "There. Less intimidating billionaire, more human disaster." He chuckled. I can live with that. The air between them shimmered with warmth, so real it felt sacred. That night, rain tapped gently against the windows. Not thunder this time, just a soft lullaby. Amanda found an old piano in the study and began to play. The melody was simple, nostalgic, full of longing. Joash entered quietly, leaning against the doorway, watching her. "What song is that?" he asked. She smiled. "Something my dad used to play. He said music could heal anything." Was he right? "Maybe," she said, fingers pausing over the keys. "But only if someone listens." He walked over, sitting beside her. "Then play again," he whispered. As she did, Joash closed his eyes. The sound filled the empty rooms, washing years of silence from his soul. Without thinking, his hand found hers on the piano. She didn't pull away. When the last note faded, he whispered, "Amanda, I don't remember what it felt like to be this calm." She turned to him, voice trembling. "That's what love does, Joash. It quiets the noise." The word hung between them, love, raw, terrifying, and beautiful. He didn't correct her. He didn't need to. Later, they stood by the fireplace, the glow painting everything in gold. Amanda traced the rim of her glass, voice soft. "You ever think about what happens after all this? When the contract ends?" Joash looked at her, eyes steady. "Every day. And," he stepped closer, voice rough, "and I hate the thought of it." Her breath caught. "You shouldn't say things you don't mean." He reached for her hand. "I mean every word." Silence. The fire cracked, her pulse raced, and their faces drew close, inches apart. But just before their lips met, Joash hesitated. Fear flickered in his eyes, the kind that comes when a man realizes he's no longer pretending. Amanda whispered, "It's okay to feel, Joash." He exhaled shakily. "That's what scares me." Then, softly, he kissed her forehead, tender, hesitant, heartbreaking. They sat together long after, watching the embers fade. For once, there were no masks, no rules. Amanda rested her head on his shoulder. "Do you ever think maybe love isn't found, Joash? Maybe it's remembered?" He smiled faintly. "Then maybe I'm remembering." Her eyes closed, a tear slipping free, not of sadness, but of release. For that night, the world outside didn't matter. For that night, they were just two broken people learning how to breathe again. 3 days later, the illusion shattered. Amanda woke to her phone vibrating nonstop. Dozens of notifications. Mention. Headlines. Billionaire Joash Miller's fake relationship exposed, mysterious girlfriend paid to play lover. Who is Amanda Blake? The struggling writer who fooled the city's most powerful man. Her heart froze. The article had details: the contract, the payment, the private villa trip. Things no one should know. Hands trembling, she scrolled down. There were photos too, of her laughing with Joash in the garden, of him brushing flour from her cheek. Moments that were real turned into proof of deceit. Tears burned her eyes. She didn't have to guess who'd leaked it. The journalist credited a source close to EtherCorp, and she knew exactly who that meant: his brother. By the time Joash arrived at her apartment, the media was already outside, flashing cameras in their faces. Amanda opened the door, eyes red, clutching her phone. How could they know about the contract, Joash? He looked wrecked, eyes dark, jaw set tight. I was about to ask you the same thing. Her face fell. You think I leaked it? I don't know, he snapped. But no one else had access. She stepped back as if struck. After everything, after you think I'd sell your story? I think, he said, voice cracking, that I've been played before, and every time I start to trust someone. Stop, she cut in, tears spilling. Don't make me pay for what she did to you. Joash stood alone on his penthouse balcony. The same skyline, the same glass wall. But this time, the reflection staring back wasn't powerful, it was empty. He whispered to no one, "I told her I couldn't feel, and now I can't stop." Rain streaked down the glass again, echoing the night they'd first been trapped together. Only now, there was no warmth waiting by the fire, only silence, regret, and the taste of her name in the dark. 2 days passed. The tabloids moved on, but Amanda hadn't. She sat at a train station, luggage by her side, a one-way ticket in her hand. Her reflection in the glass window looked like someone she didn't recognize, tired, hollow, broken. She opened her notebook again, this time writing slowly, deliberately. "Dear Josh, I don't know if you'll ever read this, but I need to say it anyway. You taught me something I thought I'd forgotten, how to feel without fear. Maybe that's love. Maybe it's just remembering how to breathe again. Either way, thank you." She paused, tears smudging the ink. "You once said you didn't know how to believe in people. So I'll leave you with the only truth I have. I believed in you, even when you didn't." She folded the letter carefully, sealing it inside an envelope marked with his name. But she didn't send it. Not yet, because a part of her, the part that still hurt, wasn't sure he deserved it. Josh hadn't slept. His world had become meetings, apologies, and press statements, but none of it mattered. He stared at his desk, the contract that started everything lying in front of him. That piece of paper had brought him Amanda and then cost him her. With trembling hands, he signed the termination line. Then quietly he tore the pages apart. His assistant entered hesitantly. "Sir, the press is asking for a statement about the leak. Should we issue one?" Josh shook his head. "No, not this time. For damage control." "This isn't about damage control," he said softly. "It's about
That
afternoon, Josh stood before cameras, but not with the usual armor of charm and precision. His suit looked rumpled, his voice low and steady. "I owe an explanation," he began. "Not to the press. To someone who taught me that image means nothing if you can't look yourself in the mirror." He paused. The room fell silent. "Yes, I asked Amanda Blake to pretend to be my girlfriend. It began as a deal. But somewhere between pretending to laugh and learning to breathe again, I realized something. I stopped pretending." Gasps murmured through the crowd. Josh looked directly into the cameras. "Amanda Blake didn't trick me. She saved me. From myself." Amanda was still at the station when her phone buzzed with a notification. A video link. She tapped it. There he was on live television, confessing everything. Her breath hitched as she listened, tears spilling freely. When he said, "She saved me from myself," she pressed a trembling hand to her mouth. The train announcement echoed overhead. Last call. Her ticket felt heavy in her hand. She looked at the clock, then at the rain outside, and then she stood. Josh returned to the empty villa after the press conference, heart hollow. The silence was unbearable now that he knew what it meant to have it filled. He poured himself a drink, but before it touched his lips, headlights flashed outside. A knock. He froze. Slowly he opened the door. Amanda stood there, soaked, breathless, eyes shimmering with a storm of her own. "You're an idiot," she whispered. He blinked, stunned. "Amanda, you thought I'd just disappear after what you said? I didn't think I deserved you to come back," he admitted quietly. She stepped closer, rain dripping from her hair. "You didn't. But I didn't come back because you deserved me." His brow furrowed. "Then why?" "Because love doesn't wait for permission." For a long time, they just stood there inches apart, hearts thundering. "I was afraid," Josh said finally. "Afraid you'd see how broken I really am." Amanda's voice broke softly. "I already saw, and I stayed anyway." Something in him shattered, but this time it wasn't pain. It was surrender. He reached for her, voice trembling. Stay again. She smiled through tears. Only if you promise to stop pretending it's fake. He laughed, choked, relieved, alive. No more pretending. And then, finally, he kissed her. No contracts, no conditions, no fear. The storm outside raged, but inside, they found their calm again. The sun rose soft and golden over the villa, scattering light through the windows like forgiveness. Amanda woke wrapped in Josh's arms. No contracts, no obligations, no lies. Just quiet breathing, steady and warm. For a long time she didn't move. She just listened to the rhythm of his heartbeat beneath her cheek. It was real, steady, human. Josh stirred, eyes opening slowly. Morning, he murmured, voice thick with sleep. Amanda smiled. You look peaceful. He chuckled softly. That's because I'm finally awake. Later, over coffee in the kitchen, Josh leaned against the counter, watching her with that half-smile she'd fallen for. I need to say something, he said quietly. Amanda set her cup down. Okay. He took a breath, voice trembling just enough to betray sincerity. I've spent most of my life hiding behind money, control, and walls. You broke every one of them without even trying. And I'm sorry for doubting you, for hurting you, for making you believe I could ever feel nothing. Her eyes shimmered. You didn't make me believe that, Josh. You made me believe you could change. He reached across the table, fingers brushing hers. You did that for me. She smiled faintly, tears glinting in her lashes. Then I guess we saved each other. That afternoon, Amanda followed him outside the same garden where their laughter once bloomed before the world tore it apart. The roses they'd planted weeks ago were budding, small, fragile, but alive. Josh knelt beside them, hands in the soil, the way he had that first morning. You were right, he said, glancing up. They just needed a little faith. Amanda crouched beside him, voice soft. Maybe we all do. He looked at her, sunlight warming his features. Do you think we'll be okay? She smiled through tears. We already are. He leaned in, and this time when he kissed her, it wasn't out of fear or longing. It was peace. A few months later, Amanda stood on a small stage in a bookstore downtown, her debut novel in her hands. The crowd applauded as she began to read aloud. He didn't need saving. He just needed someone to remind him that even broken hearts still beat. From the back of the room, Josh watched, pride and love written across his face. Afterward, he approached her, slipping a small white rose onto the table beside her book. She laughed softly. You kept one. Of course, he said, voice low. It's how I remember the day I stopped pretending. She smiled and started living. That evening, they walked through the city, no cameras, no masks. Just Josh and Amanda, hand in hand. Rain began to fall again, light, playful drops that shimmered under streetlights. Amanda tilted her head back, laughing. Do you think it's a sign? Josh grinned. I think it's a reminder. She arched a brow. Of what? He pulled her close, whispering against her hair. That love always finds its way no matter how many times we try to stop it. As they disappeared into the rain, Amanda's voice lingered in a gentle narration, the kind that feels like an ending and a beginning all at once. Sometimes love doesn't arrive when you expect it. Sometimes it crashes into your life disguised as a mistake. But when it finally stays, you understand why every heartbreak had to happen first. What would you do if love came disguised as a lie? Would you walk away or take the risk? Let us know in the comments below what you think love means when it refuses to give up. Back at the villa, the roses bloomed full, red, alive. A single page from Amanda's notebook sat on the garden bench, fluttering in the breeze. Love isn't about finding someone perfect. It's about finding someone real and choosing them anyway. Thank you so much for watching my story all the way to the end. Your support means everything. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel and drop a comment below. I'd love to hear your thoughts.